They're expecting an American Jesus. For a decade, Adam Davis believed he was Jesus Christ and was placed in a mental health institution against his will. He was given antipsychotic medications and left to rot. As time progressed, he wrote down his thoughts and feelings of the time he spent there. This is a collection of those thoughts and feelings. I'm just a boy who lost his way and decided a wise philosopher was the best way to mask my pain. Others became financial bankers. Wisdom is given to men amply, but what a man does with his wisdom makes up his day. My father asked me to read the Bible once. My first lesson was, replace the word God with love and ask yourself, what would love do? In the beginning was love, and love was with God, and love was God. He trusts in love. Let love deliver him, seeing as he delights in him. I chose to believe that if something is unfixable, you haven't had an honest chat with love yet. It would be hypocritical of love to not recycle all beings, all souls, all matters. It would be hypocritical of love to not be an accountant also. At the end of all things, the only thing I'm truly thankful for is love and the people that helped me arrive to meet him. Love looked down on the world and saw that what he made was good. And then he made man. Heaven spoke once. A few bought tickets. No one listened. To be damned is just to be a stagnant pool of water. And Jesus is a fountain of life giving water. I hate life. No, scratch that. I hate what men do with it. To give, to receive, to take, said the serpent. People hate what they do not understand. People love what makes them comfortable. Prostitutes and love are similar. One just has a better reputation. If God is love, how do I become God? A plant stretched forth its hands ready for love to reach it. Another plant overshadowed it, and so mankind. Love told me I was beautiful. I told him he hadn't seen my wife. Champions come and go. People who suffer go to heaven and ask God who won the Super Bowl. Taxis came to haunt me once. Knocking on my door, I asked them, who am I paying for? And they told me for the roads. I told them where I was going, I didn't need no roads. My girlfriend's sleeping with my best friend. I asked her to please put on a comfortable t-shirt. My friend told me the love of their life walked out on them. I told them I too remember when I disappeared. Everything has a good value to it, but good value is something that's free. My heart broke for humanity once, and then it broke for me for all eternity. Light came into the world, and people loved darkness more than light because their deeds were evil. Love came into the world, and people realized darkness wasn't so bad after all. If there is a limit to love, it no longer remains infinite. Comets come and go, planets move around the universe like clockwork, and God checks his watch now and then. Love has an appetite, but what it desires is different for each person, and you can never be too sure if you're heading to hell for what you've craved in the first place. There are 3 modes to living: holiness, passion, and the degradation of all living organisms. I loved once, hated myself for years afterward, and then I remembered her fondly, and she returned again. Sex and love are similar. One usually has a smaller penis. I hated the thought of forever, and then I remembered that womankind existed, and that I enjoy milk products. People burn with desire on earth, and wonder what hell feels like. When I'm dead and gone, I'll send you a picture of God's face. He'll be shocked I arrived so soon and that you're late for supper. Hollow, stony, filthy hearts, and bitumen. Children are the reason to live, in the hope that one day one of them might actually be able to change something. I've been betrayed before. Every second, every minute, and every hour was pain. And then I remembered they were younger than I was, and I decided to have compassion. Karma is when love has exhausted all other avenues, so it takes you to a shopping centre to buy you new shoes. Hatred is love made passionate. Indifference is the true pain. I'd rather someone curse me to my face than ignore my very existence. I hate my ex-partner for what she does to me. And then I remembered she too will die and meet God one day. I pray for my ex-partner. I pray she learns power, love, self-control, and a sound mind. That she learns the difference between fame and infamy, between patriarchy, poison, and prostitution. The last three have no difference. I wanted man to rule the world, and then I remembered they needed to be hugged at night. I loved God as much as I loved mankind, with about as much indifference in their affairs as I could, until a current affair came on, and because I hate people being bullied. I hated God. He told me I wasn't angry enough. I begged love for mercy. He told me to stay calm, feed my dog, and water my plants. And then my cat decided to show me affection in the morning. Love came knocking on my door once. I invited them in. I offered them water, and we spoke about Jesus. Bearing a heavy cross is fun for about 5 minutes, and then you've got to set up the Christmas tree again. The words of the Lord are like fine gold burned in a crucible of affliction. Zammel's is also open. The sun came down on me hard. Deserts were sweeping me like a dust storm. I remembered I had no water left, and then it rained. If they love you, they see you. If they hate you, they were looking behind you. All glory be to God, and to the men and women who died to meet him. God trusted no one except Noah, but even he received measurements, a compass, and strict orders. Even God was surprised by what Adam named the animals. Ejaculation and ejection are similar things. One is a higher rush, the other creates children of God. I drew near to God. He told me to use Crayola. I hated God for making me less than perfect, and then I remembered being one of his sons wasn't so bad after all. God made man in his image, and then they decided Halloween was a good idea. Star Wars is real. Star Trek sounds like it takes a while to get through. I was betrayed by God once, and it felt like an eternity. I sat in hospital patiently, and then I remembered that the hospital is made for hospitality and trees were made for treatment. Bugs Bunny once said, "What's up, Doc?" It took me 30 years to realize he was calmly eating a carrot. Children grow up in villages. They don't grow up in schools with one teacher. Love said to me once, "I will protect you." And then I bought a gun. Love cornered me in a bar once. I decided to walk 2 steps ahead as to not be seen with her. Love didn't return for a decade after that. I never wanted to die a slow, painful, miserable death. And then I realized I too owned a microwave. She orgasmed. The universe smiled. He orgasmed. The universe told him he needed better equipment. Women love men with good reputations. Men love women with bad ones. The problem is, bad women ruin good men's reputations. At the end of all things, innocence is and always will be more powerful than sex appeal. Better to be blind with an arm missing than burn in Sheol with a woman you thought was the one. Sex is great, but I hear God's movie nights are out of this world, and God has plans for Michael J. Fox. Passion fell in love with me once. I told her to wait until we'd both suffered more. Better to cry for a lifetime and then laugh, than to laugh for a lifetime and realize there's nothing left to cry about. But tribulation hasn't happened yet, and Dawson's Creek is still on rental. I prayed to love once. I told him to put tears in my eyes for all eternity, and he agreed with me, and I left with shoes a half a size too small for my feet. Forrest Gump is my favourite movie. When Jenny dies and Forrest has tears in his eyes for the first time, I'd watch the sequel, but I'd be afraid to not live up to someone that adequate. Love was on the earth, and then Robin Williams died. If Jesus wanted me to be a child to enter the kingdom of heaven, I'll keep my Tamagotchi, Pez dispenser, Whiz Fizz, and Yo-Yo and my neighbour's daughter. My child once asked me what love was. I couldn't say anything. I just sat and listened as I noticed her pyjamas were on backwards. A child is wiser than an adult, so don't name them until they can name themselves. Mark Andrews is good, but Captain Content gets all the ladies. Captain Featherswood, Dorothy the Dinosaur, Humphrey, SpongeBob, Digimon, Ash Ketchum, Raphael, Goku, Gambit, and Taxes. My heart's a stone. I asked God what colour. He told me black as night. I told him crystals take a while to turn emerald under pressure, and that his rudeness wasn't appreciated in this private establishment. All things are possible with God, including suicide. So maybe ask him for something a little less permanent, like a ferret or something. Jesus died on a cross. Took me a long time to realize he was trying to hug the children, possibly inappropriately. Living under the Southern Cross makes life so much better. And the night sky too. It's a good reminder that someone other than Margaret Thatcher died for me. Brazil has a giant Jesus statue. I'm wondering if they can see it from their windows. And who cleans his hands? I tried to write love on a piece of paper. The paper asked if I was planning on putting any pants on. Time travelers can manipulate time, and men can manipulate women. Both take a long time to fix what you've broken, and duct tape might not be the answer. I've loved a woman with all my heart. She threw it in the bin and told me I wasn't able to give her the baby she wanted. I picked up the baby and said that was not appropriate. It took me a long time to realize that it's easy to be the good guy. But the villain? Oh, what pain, what suffering, what utter discontent, and the hairstyles are bougie. Easy to say thank you to God shallowly every day, or curse him to his face and both cry together. Maybe then you'll have made an actual friend. True men are just men who love each other too much to let the other make similar mistakes. That and, well, they hate each other. God's love is this: I sent my son to teach you, guide you, and die for you. Just don't be involved in the last one. They say snakes are the wisest of creatures. They have to ask the ants how their day is going. Eagles have a good vantage point, but Mrs. Rabbit knows all the town's gossip. What I could teach a Christian in a year would take a child a day with some Cots cordial, dish soap, a spud gun, and a decent bedtime story. Sex lasts a while. Pain lasts a lifetime. Reincarnation lasts too long for both. I cared for my sister when I was young, and then I let her marry whoever she wanted. I died shortly after. Staircases help you go upstairs, but a woman walking down one will always be a better way to heaven. I cursed God once. He never let me forget it. I got my vengeance, though, by becoming a better man than he would have ever expected. When I got to heaven, I asked him what was the meaning of it all, and he just smiled. I had a best friend once. He was my age. We grew up together, and then I got older and made new friends, until I got so weak that I had to pass away from my boredom. God asked me if I was planning on coming home soon. I told him I better teach a few people a few things first. He told me to boil the kettle and be patient. I told him I couldn't wait that long. I went to hurt God once. He told me all I had to say was that his love wasn't enough, and that he looked suspiciously a lot like Santa. A certain man had 2 sons. One did the will of the father, the other didn't. One was a prodigal, the other never did anything wrong. The one who did no wrong refused to go in and forgive. I'm not promoting sin. I just think the people need to grow stronger from something other than water, the Bible, and the fear of being eternally separated from their Creator. Water tastes great, but I often wonder why cordial doesn't fall from the sky. If children painted the sunrise and sunset, the world would laugh so much they'd have tears for eternity. Movies are great, but being prepared for action is much wiser. Just pick your favourite movie star and don't choose John Travolta. Yeah, she got up and left me, said I took no responsibility and that I focused too much on saving the world. So I died on a cross, paid for her sins, and, well, yeah, she still hasn't texted me back. Women age men faster than a tyre gets old on a car. The right woman can replace tyres. They called me a wise philosopher when I was older, so I decided next time I wouldn't put my name on anything other than my social credit identification and any other shit they've sold us out to in the future. Lions rest during the day and go to work at night. Don't hate people you don't understand. Also, never wander alone in the Serengeti. My ex told me he was determined to make her come. I'm still getting over the pain of the invitation. I cheated on my ex. She never forgave me. Once a cheat, always a cheat. And then I remembered that Monopoly, Cluedo, and Trouble all take a while to master. Peace. Peace and other promises during a time of utter chaos and war. Peace is eating everything on your mother's plate and asking for seconds. It's also kissing someone ugly so your friend can hit on the attractive one. Showers take more tax on the body than a good hand and face wash in the sink ever could. We're here to save water. He's been drowning for a while now. I loved God. He loved me. Then I met my wife and I forgot he had a plan for me. So I asked him to change me for the better. And we gave birth to a daughter. Marriage is for 2 people to become one flesh. Therefore, whatever you're fighting against with your marital partner is your own internal war with yourself. You also haven't taken the trash out in 10 days, Stephen. I do and I do are the opposites of the musical scale. One takes a huge risk, the other is found at Dunkin' Donuts. Love said to me once, "Why do you fight?" I asked him, "It depends on who you think I'm fighting." He told me yourself. I told him I'd probably never know that answer, but I've watched The Matrix. Shame has two methods to its madness. One is to make you ashamed, the other is to make you sit silently on a porch and play a guitar perfectly. Soap is the most appropriate response to most situations. That and forgiveness. I loved my wife so much that I wanted to set her free from me, and then I realised other men didn't treat her nearly as kindly as I did, and I actually value her time and attention. People love each other based on more than looks, but handsome devils seem to always win until they reach the third phase of life. Let the devils run amok. I've been one myself. All that happened was I ran out of things to say, work to do, and children to give. Love has 7 sayings in the English language that it cares about. Thank you, I love you, I'm sorry, forgive me, I trust you, you are worthy of me, and please be patient with my understanding. Better to let another man live your dream than to never let either of you do anything. Who knows? Maybe God will be more understanding in the next one, and you'll see him again working at Krispy Kreme. I killed a man once for sleeping with my wife. He thanked me in heaven and said he understood and why, and at least he made it there. 7 densities, 7 heavens, and 7 ways to ruin a good story. I loved her. She was good to me. She saw no value in who I was, so I let her go. Years later, she returned with tears in her eyes, apologizing for the way she behaved, so I forgave her. If you do accept them back, make sure it's because you both cry when you look at each other. I can't change what God has compassion on. All I know is he has compassion on compassionate people, the elderly, and those with too many children. Compassion is just passion communicated. It's the end of the day, and my girl is gone. I guess I'll be hobbling across the finish line in last place alone. But I have penne pasta to eat tonight, which is nice. Better to have guarded one friend like the pupil of my eye than to teach thousands of men to sin in secret. I'd like to die. I see no point in life without charity, and everyone's too busy getting their fucking cars fixed. There's always that one guy who thinks he'll get away with it, but God watches all of us in secret. I'll have a drink with him at the end of his life, and he can tell me all the things that went wrong, and how much I appreciate our common bond. Do not take vengeance on yourself, for God sees everything. And if you are right, it will be made apparent in the end. If not, all the better that you've reached the end of the matter and still own your Ferrari. Give all things up to God. Thank him for all that you do. But never forget that the ants need food this winter, and it takes a human being to plant a lemon tree. He loved my life and thanked me for it. I told him I will enjoy his for much longer in the next life, and if he'd ever like his soul back, he can apologize anytime. Food is for fools and people who have worked hard all day. Neither of those people should trust Doritos as a food staple. The fear of God is the beginning of wisdom, but the fear of love sounds much, much worse. I can handle a God that is mad, but the thought of him removing his love for me makes me sad. Sure, I'll let them live. I take responsibility for what has happened, and I wish them well. If their intentions are good, they will prosper, and therefore I should be happy for them. If they are evil, it will rot in their bones until I rise triumphant from the ashes of my pain. I took on the shame of the world in the hope to have compassion on people who are ashamed. When I met them all, we cried together, and then God opened his doors, and we ate old El Paso burritos. If I know one thing about teaching in a classroom, it is that iced tea makes a child behave and helps them concentrate on complex algebra equations that they'll never use in the real world. Prophets all die because the world's light is not the light that God shows his prophets. They also tried to convince the world that they didn't have to suffer anymore. I hated life. I sat silently and sighed, and thanked God for what he had given me. And then she returned to me holding bubble tea. When all of wisdom is collated, there will be nothing left to do but plant trees, build a shelter, write songs, raise our children, and thank God we didn't die in the great solar flare of 2057. I'm trying to ask God for more than just a stone. He keeps telling me my stone is stopping me from being able to ask properly, so I keep throwing them at his window at night. I don't want to move on with life. I hate losing people, and I don't like the feeling of having to introduce myself all over again. People love what they can't have. People grow cold of what freely embraces them until they grow old and realize that they don't need what they can't have and love what freely embraces them. I love God, but all this silence bothers me. I'd appreciate a response from him now and then, or I'll have to call Pamela to check his pulse and clear his airways. Hillsong United are probably the most influential band in the world. That and Metallica. I don't know what that says about the world, but, yeah. I don't know if I failed this life or won it. All I know is this dark dread means something, and I'm seeing a lot of copper commercials. Death and taxes are the opposite of love and freedom, I'd imagine, but each to his own. I guess some people just want to watch the world burn. Morning glory is for people who worked hard all day, not for people who were up all night claiming the hottest chick at Contasio's. Being young makes you attractive, but who you press your soul against makes you usually less. So careful who you sleep with, and your uncle when he comes over for dinner. I love her. I loved her. I always will. If they tell me they don't love me, I walk away until another opportunity comes to love them again. We all feel that way about someone. Youth is wasted on the young, until you're old enough to catch an express train to the past and teach yourself not to drink that much soda. God isn't always fair. For the most part, he seems quite cruel most of the time. And then I awoke from a deep sleep to see that it was me who was unfair and was quite cruel most of the time. Why be worried for? If they stole your life, that's fine. You'll be saved when the moment is right. Just make sure you pour some water on the ground for them occasionally. Give to God what is God's and Caesar's what is Caesar's. And so, pay back. Love shows compassion on the weak. You can suffer in the middle of weakness and strength. That is a worse suffering than weakness. I choose weakness because the strong seem very able to handle and justify themselves, that I can't be bothered going to the gym anymore. The beginning and the end are the same. A woman's womb, a road to China, and missiles whizzing past our heads in some sort of holographic simulation of epic proportions. Love asked me if I was ready to die. I told her not if you're willing to accept me back. She wasn't. A fool's heart rests on his left side. A righteous man's on his right. Jesus Christ's heart rests directly in the middle, because being righteous all the time is also foolish and his breastplate is also gorgeous. Wisdom is for people with deep regrets and death looming ever so slightly over their head and heart, and also for people who need help buying something other than Lynx body spray. Love asked me if I was happy. I said no. He asked me why. I told him I found happiness repugnant without tears in my eyes. I'm in a convent with God. It gets uncomfortable at times, but the rewards are endless. All my wisdom poured out on a page. When I cleaned it up, all that was left were the words, "Love, dummy." Devils will aim at your weaknesses and make them louder than a drum kit. God shows your strengths in whispers and the occasional trial by fire. Unfortunately, men judge others for what they do themselves. Maybe that's why being a repentant sinner feels so good, to watch the rest of them burn whilst you're calm in the coals. My soul and my heart don't often speak, but at the exact junction where they meet, I am insane. I was wrong. I see that now. I was wrong. But I've heard love holds no record of that. I know I'm probably going to the Great Lake in the sky. I don't really know the reason why I'm going, but when I return, I'll do my best to be there for each and every person who is fearful of going to the place I was sent to, and I enjoy scaring the children. Mankind knows two things: what it wants and the way in which to get it. I held on to the dog as it tried to run past me. It slipped away. I found the owner. We went to the vet and I met a girl there. We sat in the car. We drove to find the dog. I decided it was best to look elsewhere. I passed her the dog's collar and said, "You take the lead." Christians hate the New Age. I always tell them, I don't really know why you're aiming to go to heaven then. Apparently dragons, mithril swords, and hovercrafts aren't fun anymore. If you're ever at a slushy machine with red and blue in it, get both and turn it into purple, for it's better to be one with the galaxy than to pick sides and have enemies. All of my adversaries are going to hell, for they never thought to pray for me, as if it would never be them that needed saving from me. When my heart is weighed, they'll find a stone and a feather. The stone is this life, the feather is the next. Whatever this world was, I was never a part of it, nor was I ever truly invited. Love looked on the earth and saw that all of mankind had turned evil, and their thoughts in their hearts were wicked continually, and he wished he'd never made them, and decided to destroy them. Fire comes from a source none of us know, yet it warms us, enables us to cook food and have warm showers. Atheists believe there is no God. Innocence is everything. I'd rather be the 144,000th with the lamb than the millions going with the lion. Love decided I wasn't worthy of life. It was at that point I realized I was, so I returned all my blockbuster VHSs. Humanity is a beautiful thing, although I haven't seen their faces for a while. They're hiding in their Jeep Cherokees. I've disobeyed the 10 Commandments. I've done the 7 deadly sins. The wages of my sin was death. I had nothing left, so I reached out my hands, and love said, "Let us reason together." The wages of sin is death, and the wallet usually grows as fast as your waistline. I'd rather live my life in green sleeves working on the garden in peace than wearing a nice collared shirt in a courtroom defending my innocence. I cared about humanity for an hour on the news, and then the commercials came on. I do hate life, but only because I know I ruin mine so badly. If it wasn't for astrology, I'd give up entirely. It's the only way I still know time has a plan for me. Yes, life is gone, and all hope is lost. Yes, I'm being turned to ash on the ground in front of all who knew me, but at least I know what God looks like, and He invites me over for grief counselling from time to time. Love is pain, and everyone knows it. Light makes that pain more comfortable. Darkness robs you of both. People want to experience love when they've just completed their grocery list and invited no one over for dinner. Unfortunately, some people have nothing left to give to society but the tale of what not to do. Love can save all people from all suffering, but He would appreciate a please and thank you for His Son's efforts. Some people run and run and run from love, only to realize the world is a sphere. I hated love so much for what he did to me, and then I remember he too lost someone he loved. If love hasn't forgiven you, ask yourself if you've forgiven him yet. If he doesn't reply, maybe think about your actions. Love transferred $100 into my bank account. I told him I was more interested in his appreciation and interest. Love stretched forth his hands and was born, and then he decided to make a Reddit, Twitch, and Twitter account so that he too could shitpost. If my eyes weren't so valuable, I'd give you them to look through. If my heart wasn't so black, I'd try and hide from this very existence. People hate what they don't understand, or have never personally experienced. People also hate telemarketers, gamblers, and people who ask too many open-ended questions. Hospitals are torture sometimes, and then they feed you, bathe you, and feed you medications you never asked for. If God is love and God is a man, I cannot fathom what the mother of God must be, or if he has a good relationship with her. Evil came of a woman, and also forgiveness. A wise woman is worth her weight in gold. A truly wise woman doesn't wear any. Gold is for a certain anniversary, sure. Fine china is for the rubbish bin. People say they're fine, not realizing they're collecting ticket stubs for their parked cars. Take me back to the land of horses, or better yet, a flying vehicle that can take me back to the land of horses, because I'd like to keep my options open. Western society is still the Wild West. People just wear different shoes and pants, and the music has improved. I don't know if I'll ever recover, but I choose to believe God heals the broken, mentally ill, and those who've seen Ace Ventura: Pet Detective. I trusted God with everything I had. I guess we'll see if making a morning coffee once in a while will get me through the gates. I do love God. I do. Honestly. I just have no idea what his email address is. When all is said and done, the honest meekness of a Jehovah's Witness, the worship of a Hillsong member, the zeal of a Mormon, the community spirit of an Anglican, and the humility of a Catholic when they light a candle is all religion really needs. Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. If he paid for it all, he can have my heart forever. Sinning is so easy, and then someone asks you to pay for dinner. You can either sit on your ass watching the stock market collapse or plant a fucking tree. Do the children really need another children's playground with no one in it? Art classes, emotional expression, dance, and dance. God made life to be enjoyed. And then people started asking for awards. There's nothing wrong with receiving an applause if you can handle the wave of criticism when your work fades. They wanted to crush my head. I told them to bring ice and lemons. I'd write a book, but I don't know anyone who would read it. My words aren't my own anyway. They're just borrowed from the space in between heartbeats. They called me the devil. I handed them a mirror. Death, where is your sting? I don't know, but I didn't appreciate the vaccinations. Kick against the pricks. Is there any better saying in the world? Love said hello. I said hello, Peter. My knowledge is this: to know the ledge that I'm standing on with everything I learn. Much knowledge maketh a man mad, and so does a woman who has decided she wants to see other people. I love God, but my God, does he know how to take his time getting to an ending? And then I awoke and realized I wasn't finishing my own sentences. People are serving sentences all the time. Others are doing jail time. I love God. There, I said it. Before I die, I want people to know it. I do love him. He hurt me. He hurts everyone. The ones he doesn't hurt are the ones far from him. Rich people are like Black Forest cake. They taste good for about 2 minutes, and then you realize you've got shit in your teeth. Better to give every cent to the well or to the church and take the risk of an adventure than spend your life around the same furniture. People are only struck in life because the bus driver still demands his $2.50. There is no cost to living. The cost was a cross, and once that was paid, everything that had a dollar sign on it was worth nothing again. There is no cost to living. The value we put on something creates a cost, because the men and women above me want to make sure I'm looked after, but more importantly, their family. Post-traumatic stress and other cheating spouses. I don't actually know how to love. I know to love is to serve. I've always wanted to fight for my country. I just don't like the idea of these armed forces and dog tags. I love my life. I just wish there wasn't a play-by-play account of the entire thing. Women will always be the answer. Women, a good book, and an actual friend. If you meet one person that makes you laugh, that strange laugh that comes from your chest, hold on to them more than your own children. The good news is you probably won't have to get rid of your own children after all. Doesn't matter how wise, how smart, how prophetic. Without love, I am nothing. Better the disabled when he receives his first taste of boost juice than a rich man who owns a juice company. Everyone needs water. No one remembers to add cordial for love's sake. I loved you all so much that I died inside waiting for you to meet me where I was, because honestly, I had no idea how to get to where you were. I read in Psalms, "Who have I in heaven besides you?" I can't stop crying about that. An entire church said it was too busy to follow me. I turned around, and there you were. I was in the blinds business. Who needs slats when you have a beautiful curtain? Yes, I'm hideous on the inside, but I chose to believe God doesn't pick favourites. I reread Genesis. Turns out the snake is the main character. I don't feel so great. And then I remember not all of my emotions are my own. The guitar is for people who are depressed and who can't be bothered changing the world or impressing anyone anymore. A good surf has more of a cleansing effect on the body than 100,000 showers. I'm trash at most things, but hand me a typewriter and a reason to live. I spent 10 years in a mental institution. I met the most sane people of my entire life. If people hate what they don't understand, then I hate myself more than I should. And if people love what makes them comfortable, then I enjoy my bed. Satan asked me to pay the ransom. I asked who for. He told me everyone's. I begged him to take me. I chose to believe even darkness is light to God, and that everyone laughs in the end. In the meantime, try not to get angry at him. There are worship leaders, and then there is Taya Smith. Apparently, I have eternal life. I've never been more worried. Say what you want about living forever, but an honest emotional death is worth everything in the end. If I can still feel love in this much poverty, I can't imagine what having a human heart must feel like. I don't want to die. I admit it. I don't want to die. My life wasn't honest enough. People want to get divorced, and then the stone was rolled away. I've met many teachers. Grief was the best. The only problem with grief is that it ages the body, but that's what liquor is for. I could talk all day. I could also raise my son and daughter. Girls love their fathers. Men love their mothers. That will never change until God retires. My dad taught me to read the Bible. The first lesson was, what would love do? I wish my soul, heart, and spirit was as quick as my understanding of why those things are completely broken within me. God can restore all things. Remember, He can restore all things. Anxiety wash away. It is not my job to love or to practice self-control. A saved person is saved forever. I'll let the Holy Spirit control me from now on. They're a better pilot. If there's a problem in a marriage, there's a good chance the "I do" didn't come out properly. Either that, or the gown was white. Every colour in all of existence, black and white at weddings and funerals. The race of the person is not the problem. The problem is who's running their race. I chose to believe I was made this way because it allows me to see who is worthy of my time and attention. Reincarnation, reincarnation, and finally, truth. Everything the light touches, everything the light touches. I am not a well man. I have nothing left to draw upon. At the end of the day, Jesus Christ paid it all. My job is to say thank you and tell others. Most people haven't heard the good news because they're too busy watching the bad news. If I could tell the world anything, it's to knock on at least one person's door every day, telling them that salvation is here. Everything else is just banking and empty car lots. I still miss her. I still love her. I don't know why women leave. Maybe I hid too much of myself under a bushel. Maybe I lit that bushel on fire. There is no soundness in my flesh. There is also no love in a rich old woman. I seem to be able to type and type and type, but then eventually I have to look in the mirror when I brush my teeth. Is there a way to hug myself without looking like I'm in a straitjacket? Because that would be more effective than any hug someone gives me. People are ashamed, I get it, but trust me, everyone has used shampoo and everyone's been to cash converters. Better to have worked with my hands every day than to have told another man what to do with his. In the future, men will govern themselves. Hierarchy is for people who think sitting at the top of something gives you the best vantage point. A man sitting on a hill needs to send a message somehow. A man in a circle of friends simply laughs. I enjoyed my time too much, and now I must shrink from death. Men are men until they decide other men aren't worthy of them. Handsome men are handsome, but they're receiving a helping hand from somewhere. Love is self-sacrifice. Everything else is just trying to enjoy something that will be taken from you eventually. I'm trying to be wittier. Depression just makes me feel like I'm sinking into a pile of darkness. And then I remember memes exist, and I own a television. I'll hold on. I held on while I was in darkness for 9 years. There are only 12 hours of darkness in a day. I've hurt many people. I can get over them hurting me easily, but I know seeing how many I've hurt is going to hurt me the most. Love asked me, who's in charge around here? I pointed to the last born child in the hospital. Love asked me to come out with my hands up. I told her I had to get changed first. God hates sinners, or so I thought. I think what he hates is people who say they aren't one. I'd rather meet my wife at the red light district, all dishevelled and curled up in a ball, than seek her on a mountaintop afraid of danger. I'm not telling people to sin. Holiness and self-control are everything in this life. If you achieve that in this day and age, I will worship at your feet. I don't want to be angry anymore. I don't like the feeling of hatred. But my boredom is getting the better of me, and they're still selling out the children. If God asks me to die for the sins of the world, I'd be too terrified to say yes, and then I'd remember all the people who died to see the day salvation came. God so loved the world that he sent his only son. He then made Brooke Litgerwood a worship leader to marvel at. Brian built the church. Joel raised it. If I could ask Hillsong to do anything, it's organise a slushy machine for everyone upon entry and give the leftovers to the homeless. If I can feel love in this poverty, what must the Rock's heart feel like? Say what you want. Bear from Medicine of the People does a better Sunday sermon than any preacher talking about the same old tithes and offerings.